All right, cool. Welcome everyone. This is jumping in mid planning for this video. We're going to start recording these so that people who aren't on here can join in and say hey. But we've just been covering a lot of stuff on our open source repo so far, improving the join time quite a bit, improving our CI/CD so you can quickly get builds. A lot of other good stuff is coming in. But we'll just jump right back into where were. And so we had the questions around our automatic deployments. That is already occurring. Pietro had that question over here. Let me share my screen real quick again on our Discord. Those who are not on our Discord, you should definitely join. Come hang out. We have a good community going. People are building cool stuff. And of course, if you're in the chat, feel free to add any questions on the chat and we'll get to you, or even come up and chat on stage. We'll chat with you. Let me go over to our roadmap as well, because we've been creating a lot of these issues, getting it pretty organized. And one thing that I want to make sure that we maintain as well is the side of our public facing roadmap. And so this is, we have all the issues on the repo itself and including our fork repo as well. And if we go over to the roadmap, though, that you can see what we're actively working on. Big piece of this, just so everyone knows, is aligning the old repo with the open source repo. There's kind of ironically like a lot of stuff that goes into the open sourcing side. Whenever you convert that, I know it sounds as simple as, oh, just click the button and boom, there we go. But it is a good bit more than that. So that's still a lot of what we have been talking about internally and moving stuff over. So Mir GitHub is pretty much there. Our web server, I just pushed a lot of code earlier this week to get that up and running well too. And Gordon, I know the join time and the physics is actually pretty similar. We have this really odd phenomenon where like physics is just not registering. But it sounds like some of that was accomplished with the optimizations too. How's that
It
going?
was indeed. So we were running an old engine from before time where we were running the private repos. So what we did was we compiled the old engine. Well, sorry, we compiled the latest version of the engine we had at the time, and then Aaron very helpfully updated the engine and got us a very close commit to the latest master of Godot. And that actually works really well with the physics, but because the other updates had been done in the interim, it meant that we were running a slightly wrong version of the NetSync library. So when we aligned these with the open source repo and we used the Godot engine submodule, that should actually be in a working state now. Now, there is one case where there will still be a problem, which is if the WebSocket hangs up. We need to add a mechanism for retrying failed WebSocket packets. So it needs to retry if something fails to go. Like if update space object fails, we need to retry that. That'll
Mm-hmm.
that'll fix 99.999% of failures on the synchronization side, except for anything that's pre-existing in the NetSync library. But yeah, the physics issue solved. The best thing for people to be doing right now is grabbing the editor binary from the CI/CD and not from the link in the README. We need to update the
Mm-hmm.
link in the README to contain the new builds I added last night. If we do this, it means that when a new user downloads the editor, they'll have nice working physics, they'll have actually better optimizations as well, and the binary is actually smaller. It's more likely to work better this way. I just tried to create the badge last night. There's a pull request up for badges, but it doesn't link to the artifacts, so I need to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Figure that out, sorry. Once that's in there, you'll be able to just grab the editor from the link in the README, click it, and it'll always give you the latest. And that'll solve 99.99% of the issues. But yeah, having the open source CI right now is amazing. It's so fast
Oh, really?
and
Okay.
free. Yeah, it's so much faster because they essentially give you 100 machines for free for each build, and they don't seem to cap it. So what they're providing is absolutely amazing on GitHub Actions, especially for the scale they're providing. Really cool that we open sourced because it just provides all these resources to us for free that we were previously running on a server.
That's great. Makes me happy. I'll go ahead and assign this to you. Oops. And yeah, that's really good to hear. Just to confirm then, so we have the additional CI/CD running for the binary then, and then,
Yeah.
but we'll really have both pathways also running. A message on Slack about this. Will we also be doing this for the latest commits for the game binary?
Yes, yeah, it's very easy to do. Like me porting this should happen after I do my next round of performance fixes. So like I might even do it during because I like to do two things at once. It seems to keep me more focused. So
Love it.
I know it sounds silly, but I need my task queue to at least be full, otherwise I don't get anything done.
You the man.
So yeah, I'll get the CI/CD done with the next round of performance fixes because I want to test the app. Like it would be really cool to be able to just click on the code link and be like, oh yeah, download latest app. And I think we could even put them in the README. Also, Jared, check the pull request list. There's a pull request you should take a look at with badges. I wasn't sure if they even made sense. GitHub badge for the build status.
Oh, nice. Yes, I've been meaning to do that.
Um,
That's great.
wasn't sure where to actually put them.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Oh,
We should also rename it to Windows, Mac, Linux, probably, so that it doesn't come out as Windows builds.
that's great.
Unit tests, we need to discuss after we've done all these optimizations as well, because we need to start writing some more
Yep.
and get the old test library across.
Getting that auto running for every PR will be important as well, especially as we start to take more open source contributions.
Exactly, it'll be amazing.
Cool. This is awesome. Good stuff here.
The only thing that's annoying about those is that they don't link you to the actual binary that you want to download. So we'll
Mm.
have to use like if you click code in the far right hand corner, there's releases. We want to use that from now on for our. It'll cover editor binary and our game binary.
Hmm.
Um, so we need to use that, I think. And I had a question. Do we want to align the game client version? I know we previously said yes to this, but I worry that there's going to be no changes to mirror server. Um, and it would be better to bump the game client only when the game client has a change, and it would be better and mirror server as well. So if mirror server has a change, it should bump the version number. This actually makes our life easier in the long run if we do that. But actually wasn't I couldn't find a plugin to do it on GitHub Actions and didn't want to spend a lot of time doing that. So I wondered what your
Oh, yeah.
thoughts were there.
Couldn't we use the same version increment we had on our private repo?
Maybe, but it expects some things like the package JSON being in the root directory. I can see if I can get that to work. Maybe there's a way of specifying like, hey, use the package JSON in this folder, and if it does let me do that, I can just filter it so that it um, only runs per folder. Maybe that is a way. I'll see.
Yeah,
I
that,
did look.
that'd be easiest.
I did look at it briefly. Yeah.
I think we still have the package JSON on the Godot app anyway. Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, we do.
That'd be easiest, I think.
Yeah. So if I can reuse the plugin, then I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be a good
Because
move.
I'll throw it in when we add when Kirill adds the mirror server stuff. For mirror server deployment, should we have this happen through the open source repo, or is this going to go through the private deployment repo?
For Mirror Official, we'll add some extra features in there. For those listening, that's referring to like, because we have our open source code here, but we'll offer some additional stuff as well, just because we're building aiming to build a sustainable business too.
Yeah, so there'll be like keys and stuff in the other repo. That's
Yeah.
yeah. So
One example is like payment rails for you as the creator, so that you can charge people for your game, charge people for in-game transactions, buy stuff on the marketplace, and so we don't expose that code on the open source side, of course. The short answer is yeah, so we should deploy that from the private repo. And Pietro,
cool.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we should probably add something to just validate that the tests can run then, just in the open source repo.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. So we should run the mirror web server tests at least there. I at least recommend that and the static checks that you run.
Yeah, that's right.
And
When you
then
get
we
those
don't need to
tests
port
running.
any of the obvious deployment scripts from there. Just so we know open source contributions work.
I think those tests are out of date, Kirill. We might need to tackle that as far as getting the tests actually working again. Kirill, could you take a look at that?
The tests?
Yeah, maybe they are working. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I can work on them. They're all failing, because I remember.
Um, there's a lot we can clean up on those. I can help you out there.
I have a bit of a side question from our users from a while ago. A few people asked about how to get assets added to the public library, but I was thinking it would make more sense for them to be part of the marketplace.
Yep.
Is the I don't know how far along the marketplace is. Is that almost ready for let people use?
We're rounding the corner on the payment stuff. That's what Kirill and Tirun and I got to chat about.
Ah, cool.
Then we'll be like almost right there because we want people to be able to upload stuff to the marketplace and yeah, whether that's free or you're charging for them, and we've gotten a few requests about adding a donation option instead. So it could be free, but could be, hey, pay if you want. So open to that as well. That wouldn't be something we launch with right away, but just FYI that we're happy to implement that.
We should make a plugin for Godot later. The asset marketplace isn't ready yet.
To plug our marketplace into the Godot editor itself.
That's what
Oh,
I was thinking
100%.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been chatting about that with them. I think that'd be awesome.
There was a few people complaining on Twitter last night that at GDC, specifically Games from Scratch, complained that at GDC they didn't announce the marketplace for Godot, which is a bit of a shame. He was a bit disappointed by that because it's been 2 years or something, or 3.
Interesting. I'm kind of surprised at that, but hey,
Yeah.
we'll release our own. Pietro had the question, and I'll put this over here for sharing my screen. Could you release the marketplace with charging people disabled to figure out payments? So you're saying essentially just like the free option so that you can just upload stuff? Short answer is yeah. Let me take a look at that. We're already like so close on some of these payment things, but I will take a look at that today. That's a good suggestion. Sometimes I get my head just kind of so much in the sand as far as having to have everything, and that's a great suggestion. Sometimes we just gotta, hey, we could ship it without the payment feature just yet.
In the client side, are we going to have another drop down for the marketplace items?
Yes, that's a great point. I haven't even had that task, and that's what's great to do in a planning meeting. So here we go.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. I think we could, for the short term, put it in the My Assets section.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you could discover them in the app.
Well, I was thinking about rehashing our sidebar of my assets. Excuse me, not my assets, library. Because library is technically free apps in the marketplace made by the mayor, right?
Yeah, that's true. So you could just have like a marketplace tab and then you can purchase and stuff in there. Nice.
The only thing is, I'm not sure if there's a way to do payments directly in the Godot app right now because we're running Stripe. I think they only do the browser. I'm not sure if they have the
Yeah.
Godot support. That'd be interesting to look into. But yeah, it'll probably just be like a redirect real quick to the browser when you buy something. But it's not bad
That's fine.
at the end of the
You
world.
could even have like I guess you could have a top up option as well.
And Pietro had another question. Could there be an option to enable comments on games? It's a great idea. That wouldn't be hard. Let me create that real quick. I feel like how H has that. It's easy to get some quick feedback on your game. I think Roblox has that too, if I'm not mistaken. And it could be helpful to enable or disable that potentially, in case the creator doesn't want it. I don't know if that'd be helpful. Oh, interesting. If that's the case, I will need to look into why. It'll be interesting. FYI, we do have a rating system as well. If you go over on to our in.themirror.space, you'll see that, oh, we may not be displaying it on the web app just yet, but it'll be up there soon. It is in the Godot app right now. You can rate something 1 to 5, then you'll see that there. And that'll be a way in the future where that'll be one of our main ways of how games are ranked. So if your game is great, get more upvotes, and then it'll appear higher in search and discovery. And yeah. Oh.
Should we add a rating so that when you leave a space, it asks you for a rating? Because right now, I think the flow is you go into a space and it asks you to set one there, but maybe we should do it in reverse so that when you're done, you set a rating optionally. But I don't want to have a pop-up that annoys the user either. I was thinking, like, right now we lack ratings on some of the spaces, and I wonder how to actually get them. Maybe we should have a view count that's an implied rating until it has an actual rating.
Yeah, my hunch is that it's the long join time that's killing us. Because if join times are taking a minute and a half, then
Yeah.
you can only play so many games in a session, and so we need to get that down to
Yeah.
1 to 5 seconds type of thing.
And for that, can we fix user presence? Because right now what's happening is they don't have permission to update the user presence for the space. And I think it would be a good idea to make it so the WebSocket can update the user presence so people can see all the open source clients online. Because right now it's trying to update the update zone object update. It's trying to update something in the zone and it's saying, hey, I can't do this. I don't have sufficient permissions. So we need to figure out how to do that. I think it might be a good idea to use the play server list and repurpose it so that when people are running open source games, it's just a list of spaces that are running. So if someone's got it in build mode, it'll display it in that playlist. And then if there are 30 people connected to that, you can see that. Or if there are 5 spaces of that running, you can see that too. And we can still aggregate the same icon on the space. But it means that we don't need really large permissions to the space document.
Yeah, so I thought it was currently working, or is that just because it's still our older implementation
It's
with?
still connected to the prod app, which prod app has a WSS token, which is obviously God, and the open source repo isn't able to set the player count, things like that.
Mhm.
I noticed this a few days ago. Um, we need to fix it, but it's not breaking anything apart from the UI to show that people are in that space. It might even be a good idea just to display a count, just aggregate a count or something. It's just a question of how to do it with permissions, you know what I mean? Because as an observer, don't have permissions to modify the space collection. However, it should show that
I
I'm
see.
playing
Yeah,
that space.
yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of one of the documents where they do need write access, but we shouldn't be providing it.
right.
So I was thinking like in the play server list, because at least there we can give them permission to set the player count to 5 without letting them have permission to modify the space document.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. You guys probably will figure it out better than I will. Um, but yeah, just wanted to let you know.
that's a good point. And yeah, because it's important to have dialed in correctly for the user presence side. And let me just get this up real quick. Those who are curious what we're referring to, if you go on our space list on the Godot app, you can see this little icon of a person right here. That means
Your
someone's actually in
screen
game.
share isn't showing it.
One sec. Let me fix that.
No, it's okay. Just wanted to tell you.
Thank you. Word. Was that? Yes, just on the list of spaces over here, we have yeah, this little person icon here. This is coming from our production code when we were closed source of running every server still, but now that we're moving to the localhost open source, the localhost multiplayer model, we'll need a way to still communicate. It's really kind of a signaling method of, hey, we're online. Hey, there are people here. So we'll need to refactor that a bit, but that means it's permissioned. Not what Gordon's referring to is some stuff in our Mirror web server, which I'd be happy to cover if you want, where we have both a way to communicate as an admin from the Mirror web server to the Godot server, but we, of course, with running stuff locally open source that people can join, that needs to be permissioned based on the user that's running that. Cool. Good suggestion. And Pietro had one more question. Could there be a drop down in settings? Is person dev? Pietro, can you elaborate there? Are you referring to advanced settings? Oh, let's do this.
Okay, so basically, if you read to the end, it is basically if person is not wanting to be a developer or like does not want to have those buttons, it would basically hide the development buttons because for example, if you go on each IO, it asks, are you there to develop games or are you there to make games? Or
Mm,
are you there, for example, to do both? And from what I understand, if you are the dev, it will show you mostly the dev related stuff. If you are there to play games, it will show you stuff to play games. If you are there to both, it will just show you both.
good point.
So that's the basic.
It's a really good point. I'm definitely open to that. Part of the intention, though, is that we want people who play to be incentivized to create as well, because we're a no-code platform as well. So it's very easy to just hop in and start making games.
Yeah, but you know, not everybody has time or no everybody wants. In Poland, we have a saying, gdzie kucha, basically, the more people there are, I think its translation is like, where there are six cooks, there is nothing to eat because they are speaking with each other. So
Hmm.
I could translate it into something like, if everybody is deaf, nobody is playing stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Cool.
Mm.
Yeah. Let me write that down.
That's what I think it would be good.
That'd be really easy to do as a pop-up right at the initial load, kind of as an onboarding question for the user. Cool. We will take a look at that. Appreciate the suggestion. Alrighty. Let's see. Anything else we should cover, either from the audience or Kirill or Grotto?
I think that's it for the stuff we're doing like this week.
Cool. Oh, one quick
Yeah, I
note.
think the same.
Sweet.
Oh,
Yeah, and yeah. One quick note. We got a question about, hey, I need to kick this user from my server. Actually, it's kicking me out because I was checking out someone's space while we were debugging it. So of course, someone should be able to kick someone from their space. I was digging into the mirror server code. That's already there, actually. It's part of
yeah.
the pub sub stuff. Looks like we just don't have it implemented on the Godot app just yet.
It's implemented, but it's implemented in a way that will be confusing to people. So if you go to the app, there's actually a, like, if you click on a space and then click space settings, any space and then click the space settings, there's actually a permission section, and then there, if you set someone to no permission, it'll block them.
Hmm.
So if you type in like Gordon, just add me, and then click that. Yep. And set my permission to nothing, like change my permission to blocked. There you go. That's how you kick people. And unfortunately, that's a bit at UX for if you're in the game. So we should probably add a shortcut menu for that
Yep, much good.
and document it.
Well, I think it makes sense just to be in the in game itself instead of having
Yeah,
to.
like in the
Yeah.
editor bar, like kick player or tab kick player.
Very much so. Cool. Thank you. This is helpful to know.
Tech added that for us.
Nope, got a crash. Hey, that's why we
What is
test.
that one? That's an
All good.
ID issue. Can you give me that line, please? No, you just don't have the latest code, I think, maybe.
Well, I'll send this to you after. Cool. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Anything else that'd be good to cover?
A space object refactor, can we do this after the optimizations? Because it might end up being part of the optimizations. What you said to me yesterday, which was, loading spaces shouldn't take long because in the back end, the documents don't take that long to load. It was correct. I think we need to reorganize our code into the structure we planned on doing with the space object refactor to allow us to have more performance.
Yes. So for those listening in, can you give a quick high level of that?
Yeah, so the high level of this was we have a lot of arrays in Godot that we're instancing, and then we're instancing all of our data as objects, which is a really bad idea because right now what we ended up with is two pieces of state. One is the Godot state, and the other is the state that can be slightly out of sync with the backend, and that's a huge problem because you could join the space and get the old data. And the other massive issue with this is we have to synchronize between zone.spaceObjects, which is just like a list of all the objects in space. And if we align all the data into one single struct and move everything, all the space objects, all the asset information into a properly packed struct, we can make loading objects instant to the point where you could load and unload objects when you're close and far away from them. And the other massive benefit is when you're starting the server, you're only filling one array. And when the player becomes in range of those objects, then you start spawning them for that client. And you're decoupling the thing you see in world from the actual code a lot. And this has huge performance benefits. Everything is in a linear list. It's not stored in a dictionary. It's not JSON. It's just some struct that we're accessing that's fast. And then when you're doing writes and reads to the database, it all goes through one place. So optimizing large updates of variables or settings changes becomes instant as well, especially doing massive operations like selecting, modifying, deleting, which is really expensive right now because when you select 100 objects, you are sending an update to the backend for those 100 objects individually, even though I added some batching in certain circumstances. And then you're having to synchronize them over the NetSync, and then you're having to do like 50 other steps versus if you just have one array of all the data with pointers to that data stored inside the Godot objects. It's way faster, exponentially faster.
So
this is what I want to do.
Why aren't we using a dictionary there instead of an array?
So right now, you can use a dictionary, that's fine. But the problem is we have two pieces of state and we need to make it one. So that Godot is using one variable essentially for a string instead of two. And the other reason is that when I change data as the Godot client, I shouldn't have to make some JSON from that. It should just automatically be built and updated to the backend. And right now that's done, but it's done in quite a convoluted way when it could just be very linear, which would be a lot faster. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly, but
to
right
clarify
now we've diverged state a lot, and we need to remove that diverged state to make it faster.
Yeah, where are these two pieces of state living? You said zone.spaceObjects and
zone.spaceObjects and the instance manager instances. So essentially we have two pieces of data. So zone.spaceObjects is the JSON we got from our server when booting the server. Instance manager instances is the actual Godot instance.
That doesn't make sense for them to be separate.
Exactly. It doesn't at all. The instances is a Godot object. However, the way in which it synchronizes zone.spaceObjects to the instance manager has a lot of extra steps that it doesn't need. And I could actually say that you probably don't even need the parts of the instance manager if you do this refactor, because the state should be set inside the Godot object. And then if the server says, hey, I'd like your latest data, or vice versa, or we want to send the latest update, we're only sending the changes. We don't send the space variable changes unless it's just the delta, things like that. There's lots of optimizations there. Like space variables eats a lot of performance in terms of client to server uh, synchronization, and then from server to backend. So we need to optimize that pathway, and by doing this, we get that in like a slam dunk. And once we've done this object refactor, on a high level, we'll have simplified space object down so we can add object to object parenting on the
Oh, heck yeah,
top.
much needed.
And we can do lots of really cool features on top of this, like open worlds if we want. Or rather, I should say, more open worlds.
That is critical. I think
Yeah.
that's open to feedback on this from anyone, but I feel like that's one of the key features that will take that. Like, we just need it in the mirror so badly on the grouping side. This will really change things for the better as far as what you can do and some of the flow of building.
The other thing we can do as well is load an instant radius around the player better with this new architecture. So right now we do that, but it's not very good because it doesn't it queues everything, whereas we can queue the objects that are just around the player, and until they're loaded, don't load anything else. So like terrain will still be preloaded the way it is because you need terrain regardless, but everything within a 100-meter radius of a player should be loaded the moment you hit connect, and then it takes 2 seconds. And because we have this array that's pre-sorted high performance pointer, you can just say, hey, what's the closest object to me? Oh, these 100 objects are within range of me. Okay, I can't really load a million objects, so what I'm going to do is load the ones that are even closer to me. You can do a lot more fancy sorting algorithms that are actually really simple in code versus right now, which they're simple when you do the implementation, but they're really expensive when you do any action on the data. Yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
sorry, I talked a lot about that, but yeah, the space object refactor would be amazing.
Cool. Yeah, totally agree. This will be good. Yeah, and let's keep that in mind too, as far as the dictionary approach, because the less that we have to do any conversion between how it's stored in the database and what the ultimate data format is in game, that'll just keep things simpler. And plus, dictionaries are designed to just do the single update instead of like the full array update as well. Help.
I think we should also add the schemas for like a space object in the actual app, so that you're just populating like a static schema in the app side, so that if backend changes anything, we just add the field in there. But that was already in the original space object plan, I believe.
Can
But we
you
should do
elaborate
the
on that? So would it be reading the Mir web server like Mongoose schema and then creating a something like that in
no,
the
it
Godot
would
app?
be more that we write class space object, we add all the fields to it, and then we put an annotation to say, hey, this is this field in the database. So we'd still manually specify that. You could probably generate it. But we don't need to generate it. It's just simply writing a Godot class that says, hey, this is where asset ID should be. Whereas right now we have a dictionary that remaps all the fields, which is really slow because it has to run every time a space object changes, which is bad. So I want to eliminate that overhead. Any database field should be explicit and written to directly. There should be no conversion required. Like you said, it should just be a dictionary. And that's what I want
Yeah.
to eliminate between Godot and the backend. But it needs to be strict as well. Because right now, it doesn't know if there's a missing field. If a piece of code maliciously accidentally deletes a field, it should know that and say, nah, I'm not doing the update. When it misbehaves now, it doesn't know. Backend may know, but it might not.
Yeah. Great plan. I'm excited for
It was
this.
something that helped a lot with when we did our other refactor. Remember when we did Zone, we refactored the server backend stuff. We added classes for everything, and it was just one field. You change it. Okay, cool. That was not complicated.
Yeah.
It was really easy. We just added the enum in Mirror Server and added the enum in Mirror Godot app, and it was literally a copy paste job with a slight syntax change.
Nice. That's great. Sounds good. Any other high priority stuff to discuss?
Nope. I think we should start the space object refactor as soon as possible.
You'll be the lead on that, so I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But yeah, that'll be good for us to tag team on that quite a bit for what we can update on Mir web server to make sure that's in sync. And I feel like there's a lot of craft we could remove and things we could simplify and streamline.
There's a lot of code that will just be made redundant if we do the refactor correctly. I would estimate like 25% of the space object code to 30%.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, a lot of it's just boilerplate and it doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, yeah. All right, good stuff. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate y'all joining. I know this is definitely on the kind of more technical side of the app, but hey, we are an open source repo, open source company now, so appreciate you hopping in and joining. And then, yeah, one of the big things that for those who are going to be watching this video on the not technical side is we are getting our automatic deployments working shortly, so you can just get the latest code automatically. And so more info to come there. But yeah, with that, thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate y'all, and yeah, let's keep on chatting on Discord, and hope you have a great week. Take care.